The woman took off her gloves, only 3 fingers were revealed surprisingly. Then she removed her shoes and only 1 toe was there astonishingly. Next she pulled off the wig from her head, transforming into a bald person. She instructed other women in the audience to do the same, while she walked to the podium opening her mouth, revealing dozens of teeth. The group of witches finally showed their true faces, gathering in this hall, discussing their plan to eliminate all the children in the world. Because witches inherently despised the smell of children, so the Grand High Witch developed a magic potion, dropping the liquid from the bottle into food, deceiving children into drinking it, turning them all into mice to be eaten. Unexpectedly, there was a boy hiding under the podium, carefully concealing his pet Miles in his arms. From the gaps in the wooden boards, he saw the witch eating bugs pulled from her scalp. The boy was scared, holding his breath, but unable to control the smell on his body. The witch on top smelled at her nostrils, instantly enlarging following the scent upwards. She confirmed the stench was coming from under the podium. Enraged witch flipped the podium over, smashing it to pieces, but found nothing. The boy had already hidden in the nearby ventilation duct. The witch followed the scent, flying over. At a critical moment, another boy outside the door broke in and saved him. When the boy entered the door, the witch had turned back into a normal person, still holding chocolate to lure the boy over. Unexpectedly, the chubby boy found it insufficient, so the witch had no choice but to turn 1 piece into 6. As a result, after the boy finished eating, it still wanted more. The witch conjured 6 more pieces of chocolate to stall for time. 10 seconds later, the potion inside the boy's stomach took effect. The boy's ear started smoking. Then his buttocks caught fire, and he soared into the sky, leaving only his clothes emitting smoke, falling to the ground. When he crawled out of his clothes, he hadn't realized he had turned into a mouse and was trampled by hundreds of high-heeled shoes in panic. The boy inside the ventilation duct, watching him desperately escape, suddenly saw his pet mouse rushing out of the vent, dragging the boy by the tail all the way back to safety, while the boy inside was still in shock. The witch noticed him and forcibly dragged him out of the ventilation duct. She intended to turn the boy into a mouse as well. The witch took out grape-flavored soda and poured it into the boy's ear. 3 drops later, the boy's head emitted purple smoke. His orifices were all hiccuping. After convulsing all over his body, he unexpectedly flew into the sky. Not only did he shrink in size, but he also grew fur, leaving only his clothes floating to the ground. The boy struggled to crawl out of his clothes, only to discover that he had turned into a little mouse. Terrified mouse scampered away with its 4 legs, but still caught up by the witch grabbing its tail. He quickly called other mice for help. The white mouse rushed over and bit the witch's hand, causing her to scream in pain and accidentally hit herself. Unexpectedly, the witch chased after them, her hand magically stretching into the vent to catch the mice. The little mouse, seeing the chubby mouse falling behind, urgently reminded him to run with all 4 legs. They narrowly avoided the witch's giant hand, but there was a fan blocking the end of the ventilation duct. The little mouse quickly shouted for the chubby mouse to jump over and increase the weight. Everyone broke through the iron plate successfully. The pursuing giant hand was instantly swept away by the electric fan, forcing the witch to retract her arm, providing the 3 mice with time to escape. Unexpectedly, the final exit led to the kitchen. Being discovered here was no better than being caught by the witch. At this moment, the little mouse saw another vent across the kitchen. He quickly led the other 2 to climb along the metal frame, successfully reaching the other end of the kitchen's duct. He planned to take everyone to the 4th floor of the hotel to find his grandmother, because his grandmother was a wizard and only she would believe his words. The little mouse crouched at the elevator entrance, hearing that there happened to be a guest going to the 4th floor. He quickly slipped into the elevator with the other 2. The 3 mice hid in the guest's bag. The little mouse finally found his grandmother's door. When he frantically knocked on the door, he realized that a mouse's strength was too weak to make his grandmother open the door. He could only ring the doorbell, so he led the other 2 along the wall to the bottom of the doorbell. But the mouse's height was still insufficient. The little mouse quickly called the chubby mouse to stand on his feet. After climbing up, he pulled up the lightest white mouse to make it jump. Finally, they barely reached the doorbell. Now the 3 mice could safely return the way they came. Unexpectedly, they were seen by a cleaner on the way back, and the cleaner let out a scream, chasing them with a broom and a frenzy. Luckily, the little Miles is smart enough. At the moment his grandmother opened the door, he led everyone to rush into the room. He waited for the cleaner to leave, then shouted and screamed to attract his grandmother's attention, jumping onto her hand. The little mouse told his grandmother about the witches using a potion to turn children into mice. Unexpectedly, the witch lived downstairs from his grandmother, unable to bear watching all the children turn into mice. His grandmother decided to steal the potion with the little mouse and make an antidote. Grandma asked little mouse to help her steal something. She placed little mouse inside a half-knitted sock, then held the end of the sock's yarn and slowly sent it down to the balcony below. As soon as the sock touched the ground, little mouse inside rushed out. He quickly climbed onto the sofa in the room. After throwing the pillow on the ground, he stepped on the pillow and jumped onto the table. He wanted to steal the magic potion on the table, with the scent attracting him. He climbed to the edge of the plate where a potion was, used his 2 claws to pull it, and the potion was flung to the ground. At this moment, someone entered the room. Hastily, he hugged the potion and hid under the bed. Unexpectedly, he saw a woman with only 1 toe. The peculiar witch who forced forced him to drink the potion, directly turned from a little boy into a little mouse. That's why he came to steal the potion to make an antidote. Taking advantage of the witch's inattention, he quickly ran back to the sock with the potion. His grandma pulled the sock up, but Little Mouse was grabbed by the witch just as he reached halfway. Terrified Little Mouse dared not move. Fortunately, Grandma was clever, knowing that the witch disliked children. She falsely claimed that it was her grandson's sock, successfully making the witch release her grip in disgust. The sock was finally pulled up, and Little Mouse quickly brought the potion to his grandma, allowing his grandma to help make the antidote. Unexpectedly, Grandma added drops of essential oils, one after another, causing the potion to stir itself. Thinking that it could succeed on the first try, the potion turned directly into black, even more toxic. He and others no longer turned back into children. But if they didn't stop the witch from using the potion, all the children in the world would turn into mice. So the little mouse had a bold idea. He wanted to pour the potion into the soup the witch would drink. He quietly sneaked into the kitchen, placed the potion on the soup ladle. As long as he lifted one end of the ladle, the potion would slide down the other end of the ladle. That's why Little Mouse was jumping now, smoothly kicking the potion into the soup. Next, he just needed to hide in his grandma's bag. Followed his grandma to the restaurant to watch the show. Unexpectedly, he seized the right moment. Today, dozens of witches gathered for dinner and soup. Soon one witch convulsed and shot up into the air, transforming into a mouse and falling down, then the second and the third. The witches in the restaurant all turned into mice and scurried around. Except for the Grand High Witch. She hadn't had the chance to drink the soup yet, but she couldn't save her companions either. Grandma was afraid the witch would realize and catch her, quickly escaped from the restaurant. Taking the opportunity, she rushed to the witch's room to eliminate the remaining potion. Unexpectedly, she was caught by the witch who arrived. Seeing her hands infinitely lengthening, about to tear herself apart, Grandma quickly called for Little Mouse's help. Little Mouse shouted to his companions to push the mouse trap on the ground tightly around the witch's foot. Taking advantage of the witch's pain and loud screams, he held the potion and jumped, successfully making the witch swallow the potion. He grabbed her wig as a parachute and safely landed. The witch's karma came. She also flew into the sky, transforming into a mouse. But Little Mouse turned around and saw that the witch now was larger than a basketball, still chasing after him to bite. Fortunately, Grandma quickly covered her with a flower vase, and the crisis was finally averted. Grandma opened the witch's suitcase to destroy the potion, but unexpectedly found the formula for the antidote. Little Mouse's kindness was rewarded, and everyone happily carried the suitcase away. Before leaving, they didn't forget to release the witch's pet to keep her company.
Fortunately, the rope was strong enough, and Becky was hung at a height of 600 meters and kept shaking. If he fell down, he would definitely be killed. The best friend held the rope tightly, trying to pull Becky up, but her feet slipped and the sudden fall scared Becky. Fortunately, she was mentally strong enough. Soon they stabilized themselves, and then they cooperated with each other, one pulling up and the other climbing up, and Becky climbed up safely. Before they could calm down their nervousness, they realized something worse, so they looked down unconsciously and found that the ladder had fallen down because of their previous actions. This is a big problem. They were trapped on an abandoned signal tower 600 meters high. There was no way the ladder could go down. The best friend took out her cell phone to call for help, only to find that they had climbed too high and even their cell phones couldn't receive any signal. Just as my girlfriend was thinking about how to go down, Becky, who was beside him, found a telescope and a signal gun with ammunition in the toolbox on the top of the tower. At this time, my bestie made a major discovery. The status she posted at the bottom of the tower in the morning received more than 300 likes. She suddenly realized that there might be a signal a little further down, so she edited a message for help. They tied the phone with a rope and started lowering it, but the rope had already reached the end, and the two still didn't hear the notification sound of the message. Seeing that the distance was not enough, the best friend made a bold decision and climbed out of the safe range. Climbed down the ladder from 1.1 points and hang yourself in the air at a height of 600 meters. But this was not enough, so she simply loosened one hand and tried to get the phone down as much as possible. Becky was breathing heavily nervously, and her best friend was about to run out of energy, but her cell phone still didn't receive any signal. She sent out a message for help and was about to give up, so she had to climb up first. At this moment, Becky suddenly thought that they were sure that Toddy had a signal. All they had to do was to send the mobile phone to the ground. After hearing this, the friend had an idea. She stuffed her phone into her shoe, took off her underwear, and used it as a cushion to protect the phone, and threw it down. The shoe fell rapidly from a height of 600 meters. They didn't know if it was damaged or not. After that, they began a long wait, but after waiting for several hours, no rescue came. Obviously, the phone was broken. Just when they were on the verge of despair, the bestie discovered through the telescope that there was a person under the tower. The two were very excited. She quickly shouted for help, but they were too high up and the man below couldn't hear her at all. Seeing the man walking further and further away, he took off his shoes and threw them down. Although the shoes hit the ground heavily, they did not attract the man's attention. Seeing this, he threw down another shoe and this time it hit the steel frame, making a sound. The man also heard the noise. Unexpectedly, after he picked up the shoes, he carefully checked the area within 10 meters around him, but he did not look up. After finding that there was no one, the man left. He threw the shoes aside and left quickly. The two of them completely collapsed upon seeing this. Becky picked up the flare gun and was about to fire, but her best friend stopped her. Because the sun was too strong now, it might be difficult to see the signal gun being fired, and she saw an RV not far away. Her bestie was sure that the man just now was here for a picnic and would not leave in the short term. Following their bestie's advice, they soon waited until night. They found the right time to fire a signal gun into the night sky. The strong light instantly attracted the attention of the men. They found the two people on the top of the tower through the telescope. When they saw the men looking at them, Becky and her bestie were so excited that they couldn't close their mouths, thinking that they were finally saved. But what happened next was unexpected, far beyond their imagination. The man came to their car with an iron rod in his hand and smashed their car window. The two men were so anxious that they stomped their feet on it. Then the car door was opened and the man got in directly. Soon the car was started. When he stole the car, he did not forget to make a whiteboard gesture to the two men. Watching the car gradually disappearing, Becky and her bestie stood helplessly on the top of the tower, falling into deep despair. At this point, they could only wait for the man to have a change of heart and call for help. But they waited until dawn the next day, and still no rescue came. This was not a solution at all. After being thirsty for a whole day, they could only think of ways to save themselves. So my best friend decided to take a risk, let down the safety rope, and prepared to pick up the backpack that had fallen on the iron sheet. Although Becky was strongly opposed to such a dangerous operation, her best friend still insisted on doing it. She first tied one end of the safety rope to the pillar. Then she stepped on the tower at 1.1 and moved down. Suddenly, she lost her grip and fell in midair, shaky. She could only try to adjust her posture and then climb down with difficulty. Each step quickly reached the end of the rope, but it was still a long way from the backpack. She tried to turn sideways and grab it with her hands. In the end, I still couldn't reach the top. Becky was terrified and wanted her best friend to come up first while she thought of a solution, but what happened next was even more dangerous. My best friend simply untied the safety rope, grabbed the rope with one hand, and reached for the backpack with the other hand, swinging in the air without any protection. But even so, it's still out of reach. So she simply kicked the tower hard with her feet, swinging her body high up, then used inertia to swing her legs and decisively let go when the time was right. Fortunately, everything went smoothly. She took a few deep breaths and successfully got the backpack. The first thing she did was to take out the water bottle from the bag. He took a big gulp, making Becky above him drool. Although the backpack was obtained, how to return to the top of the tower was a serious problem. My best friend stood up at 1.1 o'clock holding on to the iron pillar and tried to get as close to the rope as possible. Then he carefully stretched out his right hand to grab the rope, but it was just a little bit short. I couldn't reach it no matter what. At this moment, my bestie suddenly had a bold idea. She stepped back, then took out a selfie stick from her bag, used it to lift up the backpack, stretched out her arm, and wanted to hang the backpack on the rope loop. However, the backpack was too heavy, and she couldn't hook the rope loop after countless attempts. Just when she was about to become exhausted, she finally succeeded in hanging the backpack firmly on the rope loop, which immediately extended a lot. My best friend half-crouched down, ready to jump, her eyes fixed on the backpack, and then leapt forward. Succeeded in grabbing the backpack, which made Becky above look terrified. Then Becky reacted immediately. She hurriedly grabbed the rope and pulled it up with all her might. Her best friend below used her hands and feet to climb up along the rope, and soon she reached the bottom of the tower. Now she only had to grab the only remaining ladder to escape danger. However, at this moment, an accident happened. Due to physical exhaustion, my bestie fell directly from a height of 600 meters. The accident came so suddenly that Becky was shocked at the top of the tower and couldn't accept such a result at all. She cried and slowly stuck her head out, ready to face the tragic reality. The best friend grabbed the rope at the moment she fell, but because her hands were rubbed raw, she had to let Becky pull her up. Although it was a little unbelievable, she quickly came to her senses, hurriedly stabilized her body with her feet, then grabbed the rope and pulled it up desperately, finally using up her last bit. Sledge pulled her bestie up with her, along with the backpack containing water and the drone. Becky quickly took out the water bottle and drank a lot. It relieved the hunger and thirst I had suffered for the past 2 days. After the two people trapped on the top of the tower got the drone, she took out a restaurant receipt from her bag, wrote a message for help on the blank space with eyeliner, and then clipped the note in the drone, preparing to ask for help from a nearby motel. Everything is ready. Under Becky's control, the drone took off smoothly and flew quickly towards the hotel in the distance. But the drone ran out of battery before it flew far, and it was afraid that it would crash here. Then they will lose their last lifeline and have no choice but to let the drone return. At the last second before losing the ability to fly, Becky quickly caught the falling drone. However, the drone came back, but it was still out of power, and they were unable to send out a distress message. Just when the two were completely desperate, they thought of the signal light above their heads. As long as they climbed to the top, maybe they could charge the drone. So Becky put on her backpack and climbed up using her hands and feet. Soon she reached the top, then opened the top cover, unscrewed the light bulb inside, took out the charger from the backpack and plugged it in. Unbelievably, it actually charged, which made Becky very happy. So she persisted like this for 2 hours, without moving. The drone was finally fully charged. When he returned to the platform, he did not dare to stop for a moment. He immediately started the drone and flew towards the motel. Soon, buildings appeared in the picture. As long as they rushed to where there were people, they would attract attention and let people see the note above. Becky could hardly contain her joy. I couldn't help but laugh out loud, but just as the drone was crossing the road, an accident happened. A large truck roared past and directly hit the drone. Becky was dumbfounded. She couldn't believe that all this was true. They were just a little bit away from being saved. But soon, he raised the binoculars again and saw the truck driver getting out of the car to check. As long as he saw the note, they could still get it. However, the driver did not notice the abandoned drone on the ground and simply got back into the car and drove away. Watching the truck go farther and farther away, she broke down and cried. Now I am completely in despair, but even greater despair is yet to come. Just as she was looking at her best friend in despair, her best friend slowly turned her face, revealing a bloody wound. Becky was struck by lightning and instantly recalled the painful memories that she didn't want to face. It turned out that my best friend fell on the iron sheet and died on the spot. The intense stimulation made the woman mentally ill. She mistook the backpack that was pulled up for her best friend. From then on, she was left alone on the platform. On this high tower under the scorching sun, she collapsed powerlessly on the platform and lost consciousness. Suddenly, a hungry vulture flew over. He aimed at the bloody wound and bit it. But at this moment, Becky quietly opened his eyes, stared at the vulture, and then quickly grabbed the vulture's neck. The vulture struggled desperately, but was eventually subdued by the hungry Becky, and then began to eat with big mouthfuls. Now, he had only one thought in his mind, no matter what method he used. I must survive. After eating, she untied the safety rope, climbed down the only remaining ladder, and then fastened the safety buckle to the bottom iron bar. Then she dropped the safety rope and began to slide down rapidly. This time, Becky didn't hesitate anymore. She moved very quickly and slid to the end of the rope. She decisively unscrewed the safety buckle and bravely jumped onto the iron sheet. Looking at her best friend's already rotten body, she was filled with mixed feelings. But what she was going to do next was even more unbelievable. For myself,